Themes really are that glue, it's the connective tissue where we start to build that golden thread between, hey, this is where we're going, that long-term vision, these operational metrics that we want to achieve at the end of the year. And they start to really build that common language for everyone across the organization of how are we going to get there? How are we going to start executing on what we want to do? Now, before I start going into the examples here, I will say that oftentimes as humans, there's a very natural instinct to go straight to the green level and straight to building all the objectives or the initiatives. I've been very guilty of that as well, even as I think about building New Year's resolutions. You want to start just building this entire list of everything that you want to do and everything that you want to tackle. But what happens when we just jump right down to the objective level is we start to run into this laundry list of all the things that we want to do. And it becomes really, really hard and difficult to avoid this list that is difficult to also effectively prioritize as well, because we haven't given it that meaning yet, or those categories of work. So as we think about themes, oftentimes people might refer to these as pillars, rallying cries, strategic priorities. For us, we do use the word themes here internally. And I like to think of these as categories or buckets of the top priorities that are really intentional. They're really directional in the way that they're written, and they give meaning to the work that we are about to take on. So I will say for organizations, we typically see around 3 to 5 themes. We do want to make sure that we are keeping those really concise rather than going too broad where we're focusing on everything. But we'll typically start to see ones in the realm of revenue growth, maybe a different product or service that we're taking to market, and typically one around culture as well that we'll start to bucket into these different themes. Now, for the example on the screen today, we're going to follow the example as we had the $30 million recurring revenue for the operational metrics. The theme, again, it's written in a way that's directional, it's intentional, that says, well, how are we going to get there? We want to make sure that we are driving indispensability to operations leaders. So again, what you can see immediately is now this creates this common language of what we're doing, why we're doing it. This becomes a guidepost and a guiding light for all of our employees as we begin creating that plan and saying, what initiatives and goals do I want to take on? Well, what's going to allow us to drive indispensability to operations leaders? We can ask ourselves that question at the beginning when we start to put our plan together. And as we start to have 3 or 5 themes, now when we're building this plan, we will see in that annual planning phase how our work is starting to be distributed across our different themes. A lot of times we'll see that one theme might hold a lot, and then we have one theme, which we refer to as a one-team theme over here. Oftentimes that sometimes ends up being the culture theme, where there's one team or one objective holding it up. So the themes allow us to really have those conversations to say, is this important as we thought it was? Is this distributed across our workforce? And how are we going to get there and make sure we're all rowing in the same way together? The final thing that I'll add about themes here, and I see a lot of different chats come through here so we can pause, but not only is this a great activity in the beginning, as we begin to build out that list and those objectives of the things that we're going to achieve, more importantly, these themes could and should become that guidepost when we are a quarter in to our plan. And inevitably, what's going to happen is all these fires are going to come up. We're going to have unforeseen priorities after we get off of a call and want to start going different directions. So when we're planning quarter over quarter, when we're refreshing our plan, this allows us to come back to those themes and say, hey, is this still where we are going? Is this going to help us get there? And again, drive that conversation in common language across our teams.